Well, after dropping Jay off on the field of spikes and fire, but honestly, we seem to have arrived in the same place, a place full of deadly spikes and dangerous fire around, and also really, really annoying people, and extremely unpleasant vibes. Oh, and unfunny jokes too. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to, in my opinion, the worst film in the entire Indiana Jones franchise, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom from 1984. Once again, directed by Steven Spielberg and written by the husband and wife duo of William Huck and Gloria Katz, the two masterminds behind such classics as Howard the Duck and Best Defense.
Yeah, they tend to work. They worked a bit with George Lucas. So.
Speaking of which, okay, Temple of Doom. This one has a bit of a reputation. I don't personally hate it, but I've heard things that make a lot of sense. Apparently, Spielberg and Lucas were making this during a rather rough time in their lives. Apparently, George Lucas had just gone through a divorce, and Steven Spielberg was apparently exiting a relationship that he had developed for a long time. So, apparently they were very disillusioned with love, from what Intel seems to suggest.
Can't imagine why the main female character is depicted as a screaming bimbo with no personality.
Which is funny because Spielberg would end up later on marrying the actress who played her.
Well, it's nice to see he found love once again. But, yeah. Temple of Doom.
Well, it's been a while since we've done an Indiana Jones film. Plus, this film, we feel, has enough scary bits to count as a Halloween pick.
It is arguably the darkest of the Indiana Jones films.
What rating also did it have? Because someone gets his heart ripped off in this movie.
And also the most unnecessarily unpleasant.
It was rated PG.
How it got away with that, I don't know. But
I've said this before, ratings boards are weird and make no sense.
Yeah.
Alright. Start before the custom Paramount logo in 3, 2, 1, click.
So, full disclosure, this is actually instead my favorite of the Indiana Jones movie, although, as you can imagine, it's in spite of its flaws, and I don't mean the screaming character, because, there's enough to have valid critics of that. No, this, compared to the other movies, this movie is racist as shit.
So, we start off this epic globe-trotting adventure with this.
A musical performance in I forgot which specific town we're in, performed by a white woman in front of
Indiana Jones and the Temple Doom.
See, yeah, guys, you put her in front of the title.
Compared to the other Indiana Jones movies, this is the one that tries to be more akin to those classic adventure archaeologist stories in books and comics, like the King Solomon's Mines or the Adventures of Alan Quatermain. Unfortunately, that basically means a lot of, white people researcher, go to a foreign country and it's so exotic and mysterious, and the local peoples are depicted so horribly.
Okay, now to be fair to this movie, it arguably could have been less racist if they hadn't cut out a scene. But I won't talk about that later until we get to the dinner scene.
Yeah, we'll get to the Jova because I'm curious, because I could think there was at the very least half a dozen that could fit.
Let me put it like this.
There.
Yeah, I will also say this. Even as a kid, I never hated Winnie, and I still don't. Oh, don't get me wrong, you could argue the case that she is the weakest of the main female interests and whatnot, but I don't actually hate her. I'll
Also,
explain more on that
at
later.
Glimpse and Drova, I need a reminder. Is anywhere in the movie stated exactly the fact that this is a prequel to the first movie? Because when I watched it the first couple of times, I did not knew that.
I was about to bring that up. From what I can recall, unless there's a time date given or whatnot, you would be forgiven for not knowing that this is supposed to be actually take place before Raiders of the Lost Ark. I know I certainly
Like the
didn't
only
as
the
a
only
kid.
hint to that is that it's it doesn't follow directly from the events of the first movie. But to be honest, I honestly thought it was presented kind of as an anthology thing where Indy just goes around the world, a woman in every port and all. Speaking of which,
Yeah.
wow,
For
you're
something
presenting the character like you're fucking Casablanca, fucking Oscar-worthy Spielberg.
Yeah, the influence I'd say is palpable, although I'll be honest, my first thought was they're going for a James Bond vibe.
It was also
Yeah, that's what I got for the intro until the dancing started.
It was also because of shooting the character from the back, when if I recall correctly, the Doctor No introduces the character yet kind of more abrupt way, still at the table, obviously, but... So yeah, what has Indy got himself into in this case?
Now, I
It's been a while
suppose,
since I've seen this movie.
curious, sure, have you seen all the Indiana Jones flicks?
What was the most recent one?
The Meridian of Destiny, I forgot what the hell it's called.
Then
Dial
no.
of
Every
Destiny.
every
Dial
other
of
one,
Destiny.
yes. That one, no.
So I guess one thing that's
Oh.
supposed to be a bit of an indication that this is a prequel is that India's noticeably a lot more haughty and, willing to do some more risque things like holding a woman hostage to settle a deal, essentially. That being said, again, I'll admit, I don't feel like there's the biggest indication that this is a prequel.
The closest that I got as a hint from my country is that Indy got a different voice actor from the one of the first movie, and I think that was deliberate to try to represent that he was technically quote unquote younger. But as a kid, I never got this. Let me check who plays the mob leader. Lao Che, played by Roy Chiao Young.
Fun fact about him later on in the film. God, there's a lot of stuff.
Oh, it was in a parody Bruceploitation movie called Enter the Fat Dragon. I saw that one. Shut up.
Yeah, we started already.
Thank you for that. Basically, it's kind of funny how this movie not resonates, but is a bit in tune more with modern times in a sense. Because if you're one of those audience members who really don't like the modern way movies tend to do quips every 5 seconds or comment on a situation, this movie will get on your nerves very quickly. It's a vial of Baja Blast. Like, sure, Final Fantasy 15 told me that eating pizza... Yeah, very rookie mistake, Indy, to be honest. Final Fantasy 15 told me that eating pizza prevents you from poison, but apparently Baja Blast works as an antidote.
Does it?
Well, that's what apparently is in the vial.
Okay, that begs the question then. Why were you against her getting threatened the first time if you were okay with her being taken this time?
Wow. Not only Indy, but also is man in the club also makes rookie mistakes.
Is
To
this
be
how you're
fair,
supposed to tell it's a prequel? Because
Probably.
everybody's shit at their
Maybe
job.
maybe that's actually is. I guess someone that is more attentive towards these kind of things, like Chris Tagman, will be able to notice it better.
to
Oh
hit.
no, not him.
Okay,
I don't remember if he's actually his role is expanded more in the video games or not.
possibly in comics. I mean, okay, to their credit, the guy literally got lucky with the popping of the cork just in time.
Speaking of which, okay, I don't know about the comics. I don't remember outside of the outside of the actual adaptations of the actual movies. I don't remember how canonical are the video games in relation to the movies. Like say
I
the stuff
think
of
from what
Atlantis, the Wheel of Death, not the Wheel of Destiny. Sorry, the most recent one that they did. I forgot what it's called.
from what I can recall, there was nothing really in them that contradicted stuff. Now, I think where stuff might get a bit messy is when we get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but unfortunately, I'm not a super expert in how stuff may or may not contradict stuff in this franchise. Now, unlike, say, something like Predator or Alien, Indiana Jones had a very, very expansive media cultural
Because
outburst,
Lucasfilm,
essentially.
again, George Lucas was the one that started to premiere the more aggressive, capitalistic,
Wait,
franchising
uh,
of movie
wait.
series.
So you just heard multiple gunshots, and there's mass panic going on, and there's dancing and band music. Okay,
Well,
here's the thing.
hold on.
Big problem with this movie: the film's tone is all over the place.
Now, hold on, Dwibs. We have a schedule to keep here. Gunshots or not, we have to pay our 9 to 5s.
No, you don't run.
I mean, the people
How
here
can
are
you pay your
pretty
9 to 5s
bad,
if you're
so
dead?
That's a lot of ice.
Yeah, let's use this time to check who Willie is played by Kate Capshaw.
Like you mentioned,
this
the
was
future wife of
literally
Steven Spielberg.
this was literally her second major movie career. They literally star, launcher. Oh, she was in Windy City, a very depressive movie, unfortunately, but it's intentional in the plot. She has been doing TV and movie stuff up until 2001. I guess she retired. Now it feels like I'm watching a Batman 60s episode.
I thought you were going to joke about the pinstripe boss from Crash Bandicoot.
Okay, here's my Jova made his own little rebuttal for people that compared this positively compared to Crystal Skull. This film is Club Obi-Wan. This movie is one of the more darker ones, but it's also got some of the more it's also got a bit more comedy in it than normal. But here's my problem with it: the comedy, for the most part, just isn't funny.
do you want to live or not, lady?
Yeah.
And so now we've got Short Round played by Ki Hoi Kwan.
This was his movie little first role.
Yeah, and okay, to be fair, yes, he does have a habit of yelling his lines. But I'll take him a million times more over than Willie.
He's also, the year after this, he was in The Goonies, as we mentioned, and he has been more, a successful ramp in the 2020s, started with Finding Ohana, then Everything Everywhere at Once, Kung Fu Panda 4, and more recently he's going to be in Zootopia 2, or Zootopolis 2.
He was also in Loki Season 2 as well.
Mm-hmm.
I assume he was doing some movies in between his kid role years in the 2020s, but it did seem like he kind of vanished for a while.
It was apparently a fight choreographer for a couple of movies in the early 2000s, including the first X-Men movie. Weird.
Huh. Didn't know he was a martial artist.
Let me see.
I remember the fight scenes in the first X-Men
Yeah.
movie at least being competent.
Wow, second degree black belt in Taekwondo. That's actually kind of impressive.
Wow.
Hmm.
So, yeah, for the majority of this film, Indiana Jones will not have his gun in this one.
I wonder if
Okay,
it was an
now
answer to the first. All of these factors were an answer to the first movie where people thought, "Oh no, Indy uses a gun, and things are too much dark with the Nazis. Tone it down, please."
Okay, how do you not
Oopsie.
notice that?
Okay, to be fair, the door was off to the side and they were in a rush to escape. I don't blame them
Well,
for
there's
not
the
noticing
tail
that.
and everything.
He
As
really
far as
is
we
new
know-
at this, Jesus Christ.
Okay, hold on. I don't think the tail has Lao Chi's name on it, essentially. Now, that being said, Lao Chi never gets dealt with. They were planning to deal with him in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. The actor was even all pumped to come back. Sadly, though, before they could film it, the actor died.
Oh, that's a shame.
I get partly why they made Willie like this was because they wanted to make a completely different kind of character to Marion from the previous movie.
Mm-hmm.
I get that, but I don't get why you decided to have completely different mean really, really annoying.
The point with her seems to be essentially, hey, what would happen if somebody who was completely normal got dragged into a journey with Indiana completely unannounced? Like, I'd say to her credit, a lot of people probably would be shrieking at about half the stuff Indy does when he's busy being an archaeologist.
See, I get what you mean, Jova, and I get what the thought process of the movie makers were, the idea of adding a layer of challenge for his quest in the form of a leader person that cannot physically help him, and he has to care about. I bet to also partially agree with Dibs in a sense that I argue the plot suffers because in other similar cases that I have noticed this kind of thing happening, like say Strange World, the emotional investment that I have maybe for the plot or for the bigger picture around gets taken away constantly when the characters start to act like idiots and / or bickering.
That is true, unfortunately.
Oh
Has
no,
this
we're in the
ever happened to
Langoliers, we
you?
pass through the Sky Gina.
You're about to head to the pearly gates, more likely.
Don't
Yeah.
worry, it's a prequel.
I don't know how much education Ki Hui Kwan had up until this point because he was still very young, little child actor and everything, but his speech, the way he speaks English for this movie is also a bit stereotype, admittedly. Then
Okay.
again,
It's hard to name a character in this movie that isn't a stereotype of something.
then again, like 15, 16 roughly years after this, we got, still an example of that in Star Wars Episode 1, so...
Okay, I want to be fair. From what I've seen in his more adult roles, he kind of still talks like that, so I don't know if that's, like, part of the acting that the director directs him to, or if that is legit how he handles his English or whatnot.
I can believe the former because these were the years where we got stuff like Rambo 2, where a Vietnamese, woman gets intentionally directed to have her speech all over the place for the sake of sounding quote unquote exotic.
I would normally think that's the case too. The only thing I think that might contradict that is, again, he still acts like that in the
Oh boy,
2020s,
here we
where
go.
that stuff would definitely get much more frowned upon,
So,
essentially.
before
Okay,
surviving a nuke in a fridge, there was this.
Yeah, so hang on, let me get this straight. People said that was going too far, but they're perfectly okay with this?
Like, okay,
And all
I'm
their
just gonna-
legs broke.
Also, Shira, yeah, it's like saying that, if you're falling into an elevator, just jump. You'll be fine.
Oh, but they're still going.
It's a comedy of errors. Go on.
Going back to the child actor really quick, I will say, even to this day, I do get what Jova is saying, but even to this day, you will come across actors who aren't white literally saying, like, when they go for auditions, they want them to do a stereotypical accent. Like, they they tend to not want them to sound like where they're born, like, so like maybe an American accent, so that they want them to speak with the stereotypical accent. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is true that like he's still being made to speak like this, but maybe he also does. Like, both could be, like, it could be either.
I do also go off,
but
of the
unfortunately,
fact
it's still a thing.
I do also go off of what he sounded like during the Oscars, but yeah, Shiroi does raise a point that it's a lot more subtle these days, but some directors do sometimes direct that stuff. They just do it more
ask
covertly
anyone at
to
Happy
avoid getting...
Madison.
Oh God, Happy Madison.
How is this boat still intact?
You see,
glorious
Shiroi,
Chinese rubber. I don't know.
All right. Okay. One thing I should mention, actually, they're in India now. However, due to reasons we'll get to a bit later on, they actually filmed the Indian scenes in Sri Lanka.
All right.
It's also I forgot exactly what year we're supposed to be in universe, but there's also a specific reason. What is the state of India at this point? We will get it, in I think 20-minute stops.
this movie takes place in 1935.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense, man. But again, as we've said, we'll get there eventually.
And okay, I get it. I know art is typically born out of whether someone is feeling at the time. And yes, it is rough that Lucas is going through a divorce and Spielberg is going through a breakup, but did they have to take their feelings out on the audience?
As showcased time and time again, with people in the industry tends to do that all the fucking time.
They like making their problems everyone else's.
Yeah.
But don't you see, Tio? I mean, sorry. But don't you see, Dwibs? Joker 2 came to Joaquin Phoenix in a dream. His words.
Get it? Because in a foreign country, the natives treat white folk like they're Jesus or
Okay. To their credit, it's not like they're treating them as Jesus. They are a distressed village, and we'll figure out why. Essentially, there's apparently not much they can do about it. So, I want to be fair.
What is happening right now is not that much excusable. And now, Willie's been a Karen. Get it? It's a foreign type of dish, and it looks gross
Yeah,
for white people.
and there's fries around it.
I hate all of this.
Remember,
Again, I
Shiro,
want to.
it gets worse.
Again, I want.
Hey!
If I'm playing devil's advocate here, it's only Willie who really shows
Like, yeah, sure.
disgust at
The point
it.
of the
Like,
scene is that Indy is actually respecting these people, so at the very least, the archaeologist knows what's up. But still,
It's still Hollywood doing Hollywood
yeah.
things.
Remember,
Like,
Willie's also supposed to be a protagonist.
well, okay. To be fair, Dribs, just because someone's a protagonist doesn't mean we're always supposed to agree with them,
Both
essentially.
of
We
you
were supposed to like them, though,
ref-
somewhat.
refer to what I said before, the fact that, yes, it was the intention of the filmmakers, but at the same time, it feels like the movie actually gets to have a detriment that
Hell,
they did not
even
consider.
That I
Kate
do
Capshaw herself, like over 20 years later in a under 20 years later in a documentary, even she was like, "Nah, Willie's not very good. All she does is scream."
It's like Sam
Okay, I will say-
Raimi directed her.
I do kind of agree, though. It's like, whether or not it was the intentions, unfortunately, yes, how it comes off as is not the best. Now, I do wonder if part of this was also part of the mission of this movie, to be as different from the first movie as possible, essentially. The first movie saw us going up against Nazis and traveling across basically countries of Europe and Africa, essentially.
Middle East,
This
actually.
Yeah. This sees us going to India, essentially, completely different. And, okay, it's weird, but this movie tries to kind of repeat Indy's arc from the first movie. I wouldn't say completely repeat. Okay, one thing that's unique about Raiders of the Lost Ark is, like, that is probably the one film where it's felt like Indy was constantly getting warnings not to go after the treasure that he's going after, essentially. Like, to the point where even God himself is basically warning him to leave it be. Starting with this movie, it's pretty much widely agreed that, yes, he's in the right to be hunting for these things, though typically he does it with a purpose in this case. This village has been ransacked, essentially.
And they got stones. We will get, more about those in a second. This movie serves, again, as Jova said, the first movie did already prove that, but this movie reinforces the idea that all myths and religions are true, which is something that I do appreciate for a setting like this, because as I stated a couple of times, there's nothing that bores me more to that, the idea of one of these kind of adventures that solely rely on realistic ruling and having the artifacts mean actually nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I should mention, Lao Chi earlier.
Yes.
His voice was dubbed by a guy
this
named
version?
Ron Taylor.
In this version? Really?
Yeah.
Let me check.
huh.
So yeah, the stones clearly were there to, help protect the village.
Now, if I recall correctly, Temple of Doom plays it a bit conspicuous of whether or not they're truly magic or whatnot, but
Jova, at the end will actually provide a very definitive reasoning.
oh yeah, that is true. And yes, they stole their children.
So there is both, archaeological thing, but also very practical thing for the fact that this village is suffering.
Which is why
Unfortunately,
something the film
God.
does later confuses me, but I'll get to it when we get to that point. Well, here's one of the kids who
Managed to
seems
get
to have
away.
escaped.
Yes.
Yeah, a bit of a. As like I said, there's those tones all over the place. We go from shrieking, supposedly loudmouth, funny person Willie to child death.
To her credit, it wasn't like she was shrieking in the last scene we saw, but what this child was able to provide was a clue to where the kids might be held.
I mean, honestly, the only shrieking her character has done is so far is the justified moment
does more.
where what the fuck is going on kind of thing. Like,
She
Also,
does
the
more.
Alex Eek type. Well, short round, I'm afraid that these people need some good old white savioring.
As for what we could have had originally, Willie was originally handled. In terms of people auditioning for the part, the most famous one that wasn't Kate Capshaw, Stone.
Huh.
Okay, this is one thing that's weird. They throw in this thing that Indiana also wants to get the stones for fortune and glory, even though it's kind of clear that he wouldn't prioritize that over the well-being of these people and whatnot. It's like, again, my guess is it's to showcase, oh look, it's a prequel when he had less scruples, or, wasn't as hesitant about the fame and glory, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of forgotten about, essentially. Yes, the whole fame and glory thing is brought up later.
Also,
Wow.
Chris Columbus originally wrote a script for the film, in which Indy travelled to Africa and battles a monkey prince. However, it got rejected because it had too many negative African stereotypes. Yeah, having Indian stereotypes is perfectly fine, apparently.
This is what the studio, I guess, in Paramount and Lucasfilm instead thought was more acceptable.
Just Hollywood things.
Again. I think it doesn't become the worst until we get to the palace, and that is unfortunately something that they could have prevented, aside from the obvious don't be racist, but again, if they had included a certain scene, which, if I recall correctly, that scene was what got the most criticism. Speaking of criticism, while this movie did have a PG rating, there was a lot of people who apparently had, problems with how so many violent scenes got through on a PG rating. So, believe it or not, Steven Spielberg made a suggestion to the MPAA, especially after his produced film Gremlins, which came out 2 years later, also got similar complaints. He made a suggestion about the rating system. And, in fact, it was this that would lead to the creation of the PG-13 rating.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if I recall correctly, I think Last Crusade did get that rating.
I think
Don't
so.
quote me on that.
Also, if you noticed, during the scene at night where Showrun and Indy were talking, there was a shooting star. That is because Spielberg managed to accidentally catch one during the filming of Jaws, and ever since he basically includes one scene like that in all of his movies.
Jaws basically set a lot of traditions for his career. If I recall correctly, it's because of how Jaws went that it's now tradition that he never shows up for the last day of filming on any of his films, since that's how it went for Jaws, which, to be fair, Jaws was like his first big success, and he was sure it was going to be a failure, and, well, any film historian can tell you that's not what happened.
Also, I will say this, yes, I agree about Willie being annoying, but if you noticed, now the characters are actively starting to be dicks about her. She cannot physically, properly do this shit, and the others are just treating that, casual female hysteria, am I right?
She's just a lady who exists.
Okay, he doesn't go outright to say her women and all that. It's more specifically she's an amateur, but this is where I bring up my argument that she only shrieks because she's not ready for this. She is
this
legit
isn't her job.
She is legit a bystander who got dragged into this. That's why I say, to her credit, I feel like her shrieks, while they can be a bit annoying, are for the most part justified. Tell me you wouldn't be hollering if you came across all this while in the jungle.
Also, ever since more recent times, believe it or not, I actually managed to stumble into numerous groups of bats. Um, and ever since that, I cannot watch movies and documentaries anymore because they keep adding in post that screeching sound, for bats, when in reality, they're completely silent.
They are incredibly quiet.
It's actually kind of scary if you actually witness them.
As I've said before, just because something's the point doesn't mean you can't execute it badly.
My point is that it's justified more so. I mean, to her credit, how is she supposed to react to all this?
Like, literally, the guy who is supposed to be, like, because, he is newish to this in this movie, but, like, he should be helping.
Again, if maybe like we've been speculating, maybe this is also part of showing how, he wasn't as much a gentleman back then in this prequel.
Well,
He's
he
more of
wasn't
a
even
bad
the
boy.
first movie even established that he wasn't like that even in the past. I don't know how you're supposed to interpret, but that dialogue that he has with Marion implied also some very bad shit he did in the past with her.
Oh yeah, wasn't the love interest supposed to be younger in this movie, Dwibs?
I don't know about that exactly.
You mentioned something about the actresses they were picking.
Hold on, this is important.
Sharon Stone, yeah.
Hinduism mythology. To this day, I still don't understand why Squaresoft decided to visualize Shiva in female form instead in Final Fantasy. Granted, even in the depictions, the deity has a more androgynous form, and games like Shin Megami Tensei actually reflect that, but still. Although, okay, the joke with her being scared actually has this payoff. That's actually kind of cute.
That's actually part of why I'm okay with her. I feel like they do give her enough substantial material so that she's not completely worthless.
That the snake will remember that.
Oh, yes, it will.
Thankfully, this was done, I think, after Cannibal Holocaust, so I think by this point there was the, obligatory regulation of not mistreating animal on set.
Wait, hold on, remind me, did this come out before or after Roar?
Roar was 1981, wasn't it?
This was 84.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check on
Now, remember, Jova, it was Cannibal Holocaust that created the Animal Association, trademark that you see at the end of the movies.
Also, yeah, you're right, 1981. Oh, Shiroi, Roar is a PG-rated family comedy involving a ton of cats.
I still need a citation on the fact that it's supposed to be a comedy.
I'm guessing, and you're saying this is the movie that sparked like a whole thing to treat animals well on set.
Partially, like I said,
Shiri, the but one also regulations involving animals. Yes,
like I said, the one that he actually did was the last straw, basically. The equivalent to how Night Trap, founded the SRB, was an Italian-made movie called Cannibal Holocaust, because that movie actually contains on-screen very, very disturbing mistreatment of animals, including killing ones very badly.
Great.
Again, I will not go into details for the sake of you, Shiri, but let's just say it's not pleasant at all.
Jeez.
Regarding Roar, Shiroi, yes, animals were mistreated, but believe it or not, it was more so the humans that needed a saying no humans were hurt in the making of this film. Because Roar was a film shot with tons, and I do mean tons, of lions, tigers, cheetahs, panthers, big cats galore. And none of them
big
were
cats.
And before you ask, Shiroi, no, none of them were CGI. These were real big cats, and none of them were trained. free guesses as to how that went.
A lot
in
of
the
these
long run.
things could keep going till the 80s, huh? That's pretty recent.
Yes, 72 people were injured on that film, essentially.
Did anyone die? Like, Jesus.
Surprisingly, no. Some
Surprisingly
people
not.
came very close, like future director Jan de Bont.
Like, honestly, Tio's now made a theory that the reason the tornado in Twister growls is because Jan de Bont, who, mind you, had to get his head reconstructed after getting bitten by a lion,
Holy shit.
may have had some memories.
Anyway, we reached the palace.
Here
Alright.
is the palace.
This was the 30s, so if I remember correctly, India was still under British occupation.
Oh.
Let me check who plays this guy with enormous glasses.
That's a beautiful sunset.
Yeah, I mean, Douglas Slocum is back from the previous movie, and yeah, I mean, it's like in the previous movie, it's very well shot.
Oh boy, here we go. Now it's the
Oh,
hyper beast.
right. Yes. Now, if I recall correctly, the feast scene is pretty much the most major point of contention regarding this film.
There's something
Now-
also later, but I'll get to mentioning when it happens. Go on.
Now, I can't spoil the reasons behind this, essentially, but let's just say it's actually supposed to be a plot point that something is not right here, essentially. And that was established in a cutscene between Indiana Jones and this character here, Captain Blumbert. There was essentially a scene where the two are discussing that, okay, something doesn't seem right since the cultural aspects seem all wrong here, essentially, especially regarding the feast and whatnot. The problem was, for some reason I cannot surmise, that scene was cut out in editing. I have no idea why, but congrats! This film made itself look oh so bad.
The reason why they had to film all this stuff in Sri Lanka as opposed to actual India was that the Indian government took huge offence to the script with all the stereotype stuff that we had. The national censors even banned the film temporarily from being shown in India.
Can't imagine why, aren't you, right?
Is the problem that there are British people here?
Well,
Troy,
Well, that's the thing, though. Apparently, at least according to TV Tropes' logic, filming this scene in Sri Lanka with all the apparent Orientalism going on is apparently just as bad.
Okay. Sorry, Willie, you can't marry into royalty unless you really like them young.
Well, I mean, there were child pharaohs in Egypt, I believe.
child emperors
Oh, yeah.
has been a thing, in different kind of civilizations, like China, for example. Yes, quite.
British things. Snack.
Okay. typically people of this culture are supposed to be vegetarians, which was, again, admittedly, something that was mentioned in the deleted scene. Since that deleted scene is not here, yes,
Not just
we're
that.
to believe...
But Jova, these aren't Indians, they're Fuggy. What
So,
do you
like,
mean?
this
What do you mean it's
is...
practically India, just with a different name?
Yeah, sure.
So, without that scene, this just looks horribly offensive, and...
I
Not
will
just that,
say...
you would think, okay, this is like a one-time thing that for the sake of a gag, but no, they think this joke is so funny we're gonna repeat it like 4 more times.
Now, like Dwibs mentioned, it'll later be revealed that, yes, there's a reason for why things are off here, and it is made apparent that, yes, there's a cult in mind who is definitely tampering with things, but, honestly, if somebody kind of just ended the movie here, that would kind of be the implication.
Were those snakes or leeches in that scene?
Eels. I think they did use
Eels.
eels.
That said, this dinner scene is certainly a good excuse for making this a Halloween film, because this feels like something that you would decorate a Halloween dish as.
Again, it's also just so tone deaf because it boils down to, oh, white people don't eat these things, so they must be gross, even though other cultures in the world are perfectly okay in eating those kind of animals.
It's like, again, I'm gonna say it right now, if they had kept in that one scene, that would have at least dialed down the apparent racist feelings by, I'm gonna say at least 40%, because that one scene explains that this is wrong, but again, for some reason they cut the scene out, so yeah, I wouldn't blame anyone who had a bad feeling from the scene.
Isn't there, like, I don't know where it comes from, but isn't there a dish that is essentially like live worms or something? I can't
Close.
think.
Possible.
A type of cheese in my country, done in the island Sardinia, called kasumarzu, is specifically designed to be not just having mold on the crust in order to be fermented, but also containing worms, and you won't need to eat those. But to be fair, we are Italians ourselves admit that it's an acquired taste, so it's perfectly acceptable for you to actually potentially not, be too repulsed to actually not eat it properly. That's why we have a lot of different cheese types.
I was about to say, a cheese that involves worms. That is something I've never heard of, and I'm something of a cheese enthusiast.
I have yet to find a cheese I don't like, so...
The only cheese I don't like is like Swiss and maybe pepper jack. Otherwise, I'm good with most cheeses.
Like, I love blue cheese, which I know is acquired by a lot of people, and that's
I haven't
basically
said-
mold.
I've only tried a few kinds of cheese.
So yeah, supposedly there is a Fuggy cult, but the prince here assures us that it is a thing of the past.
It's kind of funny also, right, the monkey brain for dessert. But it's kind of funny. An Italian author in my country called Emilio Salgari made a point to have one of his major franchises called Sandokan being about a Malaysian pirate actually fighting the British occupation. It's still a dated type of story, but at its core, the message is the heart is in the right place, and one of the main villains that he has to face are also a cult of the thugs that actually worship the deity Kali. So by the time I got to this movie, I already had some preparations to the cultural stuff they mentioned here.
I swear, movies like these are frustrating. Arguably even more frustrating than when someone actually is trying to be racist, because at least when someone's trying to be racist, you can just call it out straight to their faces and whatnot. The frustrating thing with this is, I do believe that they legit had the best of intentions, but through lack of education on the subject material, or like I said, baffling editing choices, they made themselves look racist. God
Not
damn.
to mention drove a Hell's Pavement and all, so...
True, yeah. So, oh, goody, this bit. Also, Willie still has aspirations to be royalty. That's a subplot that I think kind of just disappears later.
Mostly because more important matters are at hand.
Also, I found it. I was thinking of Sanakji, which is Korean, and it's live squid.
Wait, squid that's alive while you eat it?
But it's apparently diced and served immediately, so it might still be wriggling.
Depending
I was
on
gonna
the
say,
culture,
if it's alive, be prepared to get punched, because squids really do put up.
depends on the type. But I forgot here. Have you ever seen the 2003 original version of Old Boy?
No.
Oh, okay, because one of the plot points, which also happens literally as a thing, is that the main character at one point orders at a sushi restaurant to eat something alive. They bring him an octopus, and he literally starts biting in.
Oh my god.
What's the name? God, I forgot. Ozzy Osbourne style.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
What was it with Ozzy Osbourne in his teeth?
There was, I don't even know if it's a real thing or not, but it was at least the urban legend of the fact that he ate a bat's head during a concert.
Okay,
His wife
so now
thinks the rumor is ridiculous. So
all right, so now it's time for a game of sex chicken. First one who cracks loses.
Indy, there are better fish in the sea.
Oh, so is this where the Von Karmers got their idea of their predictions with time limits? 5 minutes.
he really liked this movie.
Hey, it's the one movie where Indy isn't fighting the Germans. Of course he liked this one.
There's also the character of Fang from Street Fighter V.
All right, so place your bets. Who will crack under sexual pressure first?
Probably the audience.
They're both doing terribly.
That implies that the audiences got fed up and had sex themselves in the theater.
You say that. I didn't mention it when we commented on that, but when I got to see Watchmen in theaters, I was basically playing third wheel when my sister was with one of her boyfriends at the time. And halfway through the movie, they started lemoning and was like, "Can I just watch the movie, please?"
Did they do it during the flamethrower sex scene in Watchmen?
Don't remember, very likely.
He probably repressed that.
Whoop.
Oh. Just meet in the hallway.
Whoa, Indy, I didn't know you were into choking for sex.
And again, here's also to have to mention them. While the movie has been surprisingly, considering what it's showing, surprisingly tried to have most consistently people of local ethnicity to represent people of India. For the more heavy action scenes, unfortunately, we have white people in brownface.
Okay, I'll give him credit. One of them was meant to be a running gag since it's the same guy who plays the German boxer from the first movie.
I mean, I get
otherwise,
it.
that is a yikes.
Still, again, no excuse to do in the middle of the 80s. There's the whip. Like, we had to wait 51 minutes to get to that. A more light-hearted Indiana Jones, where a guy gets hung. Jesus.
By the freaking ceiling fan.
Not the time, sorry.
You caved.
Is this really how you usually have sex?
This is the weirdest
what I
school
ex-
play.
And because,
Oh,
again, we're
God.
operating on comedy of error, instead of actually explaining to her what's going on, he does nothing, which obviously prompts to her to be confused and react the way. Again, that's the kind of, tilting in the middle, thing that this movie does with Willie, where I actually understand where Ribs is coming from, but I get the idea she's in that position because the movie thinks it's funny to do so, rather than wanting to have a point most of the time.
Ha 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 ha. Get it? Touches the statue's boobs instead of hers. Because no one will ever think to touch there.
It's not like the story itself is a convoluted mess or anything like that. It's just what goes on in and around it. That's what I get hung up on the most.
Compared to the first movie, this is actually far simpler as a story,
Don't worry, they're just hanging around, it seems.
Okay.
Oh no, it's these two. Probably some of Peter Jackson's best scenes, favorite scenes.
Here we go. As is customary of an Indiana Jones film, the creepy crawlies.
Why?
If I recall correctly, I think that the reason they have creepy crawlies is that from old adventure shows and whatnot, creepy crawlies were a staple of those.
Yes, usually
think.
scarabs. The classic stereotype is cursed tomb of a pharaoh in Egypt, where scarabs actually eat you alive. The Mummy with Brendan Fraser actually had that.
I'm guessing the idea was always supposed to be the irony that, while Indiana Jones wasn't scared of most creepy crawlies, it was snakes specifically that got his goat. We are not the first people who have been here.
Okay. Nothing wrong can go from that,
Understandable.
right? Oh.
The ancients who made this were very specific. Oh, yes. We'll make someone terrified. But just to make sure, just to really be dicks, when they lean back against the wall to catch their breaths, that will activate the mechanism to crush them.
And now it's up to Willie to save the two. Hijinks ensuing.
Yeah, I won't do any overly dramatic groaning whenever Willie screams, because otherwise I'll fall into the same trap that some of those early online angry critics did come off as more annoying than what they're saying is annoying.
I'll instead
Again,
refer
what?
to that sketch from Family Guy where Stewie plays short round and turns to the camera and says, "She's here only because she's lived with the director."
Well, that's the thing, though. Apparently, they didn't start dating until a few years after this film.
It's clear Seth MacFarlane wanted to do that just to be funny.
It's not even accurate.
Yeah, not the first time. Why?
I have to wonder what they.
Because
As much as I do want to get into acting, my hearts go out to the actors who have to deal with stuff like, even if those were props or whatnot, holy cow.
I honestly think that most of them were actual living bugs.
In which case, I absolutely do not blame the actress for shrieking.
generally I'm okay with this kind of thing. Just as long as they stay outside of the human body.
Fair enough.
I also like this gag that they were so dramatic, but it's Indy's and telling her to go to the other hole.
Yeah, no, to give the movie credit, there are legit laughs I get. Honestly, this feels like a movie that could honestly do with a remake. For obvious logistical reasons, we're probably not gonna get a remake.
What was with that? Okay, what was with that line delivery?
What? Which one?
We are going to die.
Well, I think he's emphasizing the fact that, their number is about to be up.
It was just so weirdly delivered, though.
I like to imagine that the people who made this trap put in that little trap stopper, just in case we got the wrong person.
It will also
trapped
to emphasize
inside.
the power of teamwork.
Yes.
You can probably guess which scene from The Mummy I hate.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And she makes it worse.
Damn it!
Not the time to complain. Move.
Time to go.
And here's the one more iconic scene. So Indy gets back. Yeah, surprising. The scene that everyone thinks of, Indy getting his head before the contraption squishes it. That's from this movie.
No, to this movie's credit, it has a lot of iconic scenes that a lot of people like to replicate and whatnot. It's like I said. Okay. Obviously, Justice for All is not nearly as controversial, but I view Temple of Doom like I do Justice for All from the original Ace Attorney trilogy. Clearly the weakest of the original trilogy, but it's still a part of the trilogy, and, it's not like I would not want it to exist, essentially. For me, it's like the least good, as opposed to being, terrible, in a sense. Now,
oh god, we're only halfway through.
I do wonder if Raja Gosnell got inspired by this scene to create the rave in her Scooby-Doo live-action movie.
Given some of the imagery, that would not surprise me.
Have we done those movies?
Not yet.
No, we have not yet, surprisingly.
That's another good candidate for Halloween, admittedly.
Yeah.
I tell you, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, I unironically love that movie. I will say that all things considered, once again, the set design is amazing for these movies.
Yeah, apparently this cult has managed to find a cave that is right on top of a pool of lava, as you'll be able to see.
And look, it turns out the prince is a part of them after all.
Okay, well, here's the thing, though. This movie portrays Kali as being the goddess of the underworld, even though that's not
No,
accurate at all.
a lot
It
of
was a
old
goddess of change and empowerment.
a lot of old adventure type stories lives unfortunately had the idea of portraying Kali in a more malicious way with people dedicating human sacrifices to the deity when again it's just bad mischaracterization. A lot of like, it's kind of funny that I keep noticing that a lot
You
of
know,
conceptual mythologies that we have potentially is also yeah we do get to see someone getting his heart ripped off, Mortal Kombat style. Um,
I can't imagine why people were mad about this getting only a PG rating. But don't worry, his skin seals up, so it's not too
this is
bloody.
again another strong showcasing of the fact that the supernatural is a thing in this franchise, especially
And
for
also
Does
earlier, and earlier that they were portraying the colonializing Brits as the as heroes.
yeah we're gonna even
Which
have them as the cavalry for the climax, believe it or not.
Okay, so knowing now that this is a throwback to old adventure shows or whatnot, again, this is not me trying to excuse this, but part of me does wonder if they did that intentionally as a throwback to those while knowing that it was wrong, because I feel like a lot of these people should know better. Mind you, if that was the intent, it doesn't come off the best either way, because, who knows? Maybe in the 80s, people would have gotten that, oh, this is supposed to be a throwback to those ones, so that's why it's inaccurate. But ironically, that means that this is something that did not age well with time, since not as many people are aware of those. Go figure. We're now to a point where the Indiana Jones films are like the equivalent to what those old shows that Indiana Jones was supposed to be an homage to is. So, unless you're like a big entertainment enthusiast, you might not get why they made things a certain way. And that's assuming the best that, yes, they made things this tug-collaringly awkward because it was a throwback to those old-timey shows.
Mhm. Does Indy have enough money to get that kid therapy after everything he's seen for the past hour?
I'm gonna say no,
Probably.
I mean, we don't see a short round again after this.
which is kind of a shame. Again,
I forget a short round was supposed to show up in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull as well, but
don't think so. People wanted him to show up in Dial of Destiny, but unfortunately it did not happen. Also, to expand on what Joe was saying, it's also part of a bigger, debate that is going on even currently about the whole archaeological type of, adventure storytelling, about, its ethical, presentation, because at the end of the day most of the time it was just portraying white people appropriating stuff from foreign cultures, which for a long time was deemed more acceptable, but as time progresses people found out that it was not particularly responsible and kind of elitaristic. The thing is that the way this gets addressed in recent times, I argue, has been not hit and miss, but sometimes it tries to approach the question in a more aggressive way. Like, for example, in the recent Tomb Raider animated series, they kind of try to make it a point that Lara is not doing her archaeological stuff, to do that, but they try to almost wink at the camera because it's a Netflix production, so of course we had to do that,
ugh.
Anyway, to mention what I was saying before, um, again, it's something that it's noticeable time and time again, but over the times, all the different mythologies that you get to see were equivalent gods of the underworld, like Hela for Norse mythology, Hades for, the Greeks, for example. They tend to be portraying villains when most of the time they were really not, but it was a sub-product of the Council of Nicaea, because in order to make things more rationalizing for the emerging Christian religion that was expanded for the Roman Empire, they were going to say, oh, all the previous mythology of paganism had their god of the underworld, similar to what we consider the devil now. It was basically, a bit of revisionism to make it more, logical for people to accept.
It really does reveal that in a sense. Even as early back as BC times, a lot of history can basically be equivalent to a botched game of telephone.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
the way of saying, Drova. History is written by the winners, unfortunately. Whee!
Whee!
So yeah, in the meantime, since we did talk over it, that's where the 3 stones that were, subtracted ended up with at the base of the throne of Kali.
Okay, did they like handcraft this space on the set, or
Don't know.
these stones, I guess, bring wealth and prosperity, essentially. Like, somehow they were helping the village that's now starving. It's not expanded on the most, but basically, it's implied that they can sense whether or not you're worthy, in a sense, as we'll see later.
If your art is pure or not, and they resonate while being near each other.
I do feel like out of all the artifacts searched for in the movies, these are probably kind of the most obscure in what they fully do altogether.
Again, it's one of the reasons why this movie, out of the original trilogy, is still my favorite in spite of what it does. Because it tries to do something relatively different that is unknown to the audience. It just does it in a very clumsy way, of course. But the spirit is there, and I argue with the actual polishing, it could be actually good as a, teaching something to the audience that they don't know, because Last Crusade instead goes back to the ground of Raiders of the Lost Ark, just with a bit of a different shuffling of the deck, but otherwise treads a more familiar ground that people know, including having the Nazis as the enemies and all.
From what I recall, part of that was them backtracking after
Yeah.
some of the backlash that Temple of Doom
Not
got.
the last time Lucasfilm will do that.
Now, mind you, Last Crusade is probably my favorite of the Indiana Jones flicks, but I can definitely understand being upset that a lot of it was basically a massive backtrack.
This is instead what the video games come in for, because while some of them do have something more akin to the first and the third movie, like even the more recent one, The Great Circle, which has, instead of having strictly just the Nazis, also the Italian fascists, but it follows a structure that is more similar also to this movie, with the idea of having different artifacts from different cultures of the world, instead of something being strictly Abrahamic.
And of course, this would culminate in what was a very, very, very ambitious project, the Young Indiana Jones series, which, believe it or not, chronicles not just the adventures of young Indiana Jones, but actually goes all the way to his adulthood and then later old age, essentially, to the point where I think Harrison Ford even guest starred in a few episodes of that series when we get to the adult era.
Also,
So, yes.
I will talk more when we eventually get to Last Crusade, but also, if you have been not a fan of something like, say, the movie Solo, that it has the whole, we explain how things got into place for this character, Last Crusade commits the sin of doing that in the first 10 minutes, in a barrage kind of way.
I'll be fair, I'm fine with Last Crusade doing it, since part of that movie's gumption was to tell Indiana's origin. It's funny, actually. I forget if we mentioned it in our commentary of Raiders of the Lost Ark, because, God, it's, I think, been over 7 years since we commentated on that movie.
Don't think that much, but let me check. More like 6, July 9, 2019.
Okay, yeah, 6. But, yeah, no, Fire Conquer, originally, Indiana Jones was supposed to be a 5-picture deal, but they cut it down to 3 for whatever reason.
Because trilogies.
I never get... Okay, I get that 3 is a magic number, but I feel like sometimes people overrate the necessity to make stuff a trilogy. I feel like a lot of times it can sometimes limit you, and if you're trying to be a trilogy and culminate everything in the third film, that can sometimes mean you have to squeeze too much into a picture.
Also, no, please, guy, you have to say it like the guy from Dungeons and Dragons. Just like you thieves, always taking
Alright.
things that don't belong to you.
So apparently there are 5 stones in total,
And
essentially.
with all five, in tow, they will be able to basically contrast the British, supposedly.
Now, what makes these the bad guys is that they are taking in children's slaves, unlike the British.
Sure.
And yes, that guy is played by the same guy who played the German boxer in the first movie. So as you can imagine, he will also get a fight scene with him.
Is he in
Yeah, in brown
blackface?
brown face, I noticed that before, Libs. Also,
Oh.
yeah, here's the one thing that you can argue might not be necessarily mystical, but potentially just scientifical. The cult has this thing to brainwash people, making injectables they call the blood of Kali, but it's just a mixture. Could be the equivalent of a true serum.
I don't think he has a choice, kid.
Well, he tried.
Oh, there we go. Right into the eyes, too. Ugh. Gross.
That said, we got a little something to put him in his
A
place.
voodoo doll, which is not something that belongs to Hindu culture. Spielberg, Lucas, you're kind of getting things confused a bit.
Okay, let's
Yeah,
be fair.
I also blame the screenwriters as well.
You're not
I'll
making
be
Grim
fair.
Fandango now.
I feel like a bunch of people are responsible for this.
Someone
Again,
has to.
it's. Whipped with his own whip. Oh, the irony.
Arizona, you're not auditioning for the Amityville Horror.
All right, Harrison. For this scene, I want you to imagine every single Han Solo fangirl tackling you and swarming you.
He's reliving the comedy of this movie.
Poor
He's
bastard.
No.
He's having flashback to the holiday special. That's it. I'm turning
I was
back.
about to say, because every time that holiday special is brought up, I don't know if it's just a bit, but he acts like a Vietnamese. Sorry, he acts like a Vietnam
Veteran.
PTSD soldier veteran. Yeah.
At last,
So
I
if this
truly
is
see.
so,
Maybe midi-chlorians aren't such a bad thing.
Well, I mean, after the Star Wars sequels,
I'm
that's
mostly
actually pretty
joking
accurate in my
myself.
opinion.
I'll get there when we get to episode 1.
So yeah, Indy's gone stark raving mad. Short Round's been put to work. But what about Willie?
What about Willie?
So the movie forgot about it. Good.
Forget about
Not
it.
quite. Also, I don't think we've gone over who's playing the main antagonist in this movie.
The priest.
She's the sacrifice this time.
Amrish Puri.
Yep.
Yay!
Amrish Puri. No, okay, he's native Indian.
She's only had like one personality trait so far.
I still don't think like she's done enough to warrant the backlash that the character got.
Nah, I don't think so either. I think at worst she was just a victim of a bad script, and even still, like I've said, I don't think she screeches nearly as much as people remember. She mainly
I don't
screeches
I don't blame Kate Capshaw or anything. She was just performing the role as she was told to.
Again, my problem with people's critiques is usually they go, "Oh, she screams and wails," and I'm like, she screams and wails in situations that absolutely warrant it.
It just
It was
feels
how
like
she
another
does it
case.
as well. That's the issue.
Yeah, she.
It just feels like a case of the internet just over exaggerating how bad something is again.
I agree.
Amrish Puri died in 2005, but he has an extensive career since the 50s, but this is the only major movie I recognize. I guess most of his career was in movies of actually of India.
Bollywood.
Mm-hmm.
But he wants Indy to do the honors to showcase his loyalty.
We didn't talk about it. The Prime Minister instead is actually played by Roshan Seth, British Indian, actually. This was actually early in his career. It was in 1982 in a biopic about Gandhi. Let me see. Yes, Don. Oh God, it was in the 2019 Dumbo remake.
Oh goodness, I'm so sorry.
Jesus.
Yeah,
that was
his
certainly
last,
a movie.
That was his last theatrical movie role ever since he has done TV stuff. He's 83 and he's technically had been doing up until 2021. Captain Blumbert, which we didn't mention the actor, instead by Philip Stone, who passed away in 2003 instead. Oh, right, he was the ghost of the previous caretaker in Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. He was also in number 5 in Thunderball during the meetup with Spectre. And also the father of a protagonist in A Clockwork Orange. But yeah, it's time for Short Round to save the day, because we're gonna need to have the child sidekick do something and act as an inspiration for the other children. Hey, did you know that 1 year later, all of the people involved in this movie will do the Goonies? Can't imagine why I'm saying that.
So wasn't Sean Astin in that film too?
Yes, he was the protagonist, Mickey.
So for some reason they didn't tear her heart out. Like, I get it, obviously, main protagonist, she can't have her heart ripped out, but now seriously, why didn't they take her heart out too?
They did not wanted to show her boobs.
Because if she doesn't have a... Actually, no, I can't even say she won't scream if she doesn't have a heart, because that other guy earlier had his heart ripped out.
I know, he was screaming when they were putting him into the lava despite his heart being ripped out.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear properly.
Cast her in. She's annoying anyway.
No. Perish child.
Okay, I'm pretty sure she should be flaming by now.
Convention
Schmuck
yeah. It's also the way they frame this lava pool as if it's like the gates of hell because it's spiraling. But yeah, apparently torching Indy breaks the spell. However that works. Ding.
Wink.
So there you are. So there's a lesson for you. If someone's been hypnotized, just burn them a bit.
And basically
Sure,
this starts properly the climax of the movie. It's gonna take like roughly 20-25 minutes for it.
Which, to be fair, I will say that what probably this movie's best property is its action, which, you know, it's an Indiana Jones film. You kind of have to try for those to be
like
bad
I said,
action-wise.
another thing that I appreciate this over the first movie is that it actually is a proper proactive type of, you know, climax with everyone involved fighting properly instead of like having the first movie being Indy and Marion just being captured like idiots and saying, well, they could have just done nothing because the villains actually killed themselves.
Yeah,
I mean, they had
feel
to
like
do something. They had to close their eyes.
Wow.
Well, I think what Tio's point
Well,
is,
if they didn't, they'd be dead.
I think Tio's point is that for as iconic as Raiders of the Lost Ark is, when you get down to it, actually letting the Germans bring the Ark to Hitler would have been a net gain for the good guys.
To be fair, again, we couldn't know, but, you know, it's something that you realize with hindsight.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster at this point.
Back down! You know, I could totally see this being used for, like, a dark ride simulation. Ow! He survives that, apparently, though, since apparently comics later showcase that he did escape the buildings later. I forget if he gets dealt with, though.
But that's it.
Yeah.
Speaking, since we were talking about that, Java, I guess they did make theme park attractions based on this franchise?
Oh, yes. In fact, Disney actually made an attraction of it before they even owned the franchise as well. In fact, it's funny we're doing this not too long after we recently did a commentary of dinosaurs, since the dinosaur ride in Animal Kingdom is about to get replaced with an Indiana Jones touched up ride there.
Whoop.
So yes, there you go. In a way, Dinosaur and Indiana Jones are linked.
Why not?
Okay, to her credit, you did slam her into a cage where she was nearly burned alive, so the slap's warranted.
He was hypnotized.
Again, to be fair, she's probably not thinking the best from all that heat. Alright, girls, you've had enough shirtless Harrison Ford now. Now you know it's him, because he's about to put the hat back on.
Why is the hat the source of his power?
No, you have to remember this.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that the Layton first Layton franchise took the importance of a hat just for different reasons. Last Crusade will have a relatively simple explanation why he cherishes his particular hat. While of course we know that for Layton he had a very personal, trauma-induced reason.
Guess he only had time to put on the shirt and not the jacket, too. One thing I will give this movie is, yeah, there's some controversial points, but admittedly, at its core, it's the very wholesome message of Indiana Jones freeing children from
You can
slavery,
kind of tell we
essentially.
were not too far away from Spielberg making Hook. That was 1991, 7 years after this, because I can see also similarities in shot compositions and, story themes.
Spielberg definitely has a special larger-than-life style that's pretty much a hallmark of his movies.
Also, with this particular sequence, I'm getting flashbacks to the infamous, I think it was, LGN NES video game, which is terrible. The AVGN covered it, but I don't remember if it was strictly LJN, but the NES Indiana Jones Temple of Doom video game, as particularly during the mine sequence, is just baffling for how bad it is. Also, it was not very noticeable, but I did the rope that was pulling the cart that they tried to conceal, but wasn't visible. It's still visible actually now. Actually,
I think, to be fair, they're not trying to hide the rope, since
oh, so it's
otherwise
not
you'd
a
be wondering.
prop. I thought it was just an
Yeah.
automated system.
I think that's supposed to be part of the mine system, basically, because otherwise we'd just be left to be wondering, why is that cart going up on its own? It's not a roller coaster.
And yeah, another thing for the supernatural, again, the fact that the voodoo doll actually works.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
it pulls
you
up the
could just
cart and
put the
basically
nail
has
in
it
his.
so that it can dump in there.
You could just put the nail in his head, and that would kill him.
There is a sadistic quality to that, Dwaves. They want him to suffer.
Well, they're stupid.
Like in a Bond movie, basically.
Yeah. In this case, it's basically sadism over death, essentially.
Remember, the prince is under mind control right now.
Yep.
So once again, it's up to Short Round to save the day. I forgot how much stuff they actually get to have a Short Round to do to save people in this movie.
Stab him in the back while you're about to treat him to being crushed.
Actually, on the front, there was his chest area. Dramatic grabbing. There you go.
Right in the nick of time.
Ooh.
Even Short Round gets in on the pump fist action.
And Willie's being the hype girl.
Basically, the cheerleader. Oh, and here's time for some more gruesome stuff. Huh?
Again, since it's the same guy who played the German boxer with the airplane death, yeah, this'll go.
Enjoy the chipper!
It's actually a compressor, but still.
Oh.
Discretion shot and
Fatality.
everything.
Messy.
Ow. Let me see if the young prince is actually credited.
Ow.
Oh boy, here we go.
Raj Singh plays the Maharaja. I'm
Forget
checking.
if he's really doing acting. Okay.
No, he was in a movie in 1990 after this and then stopped. Again, child actor, so you had to expect that.
Yeah. Ideally, he at least got out and was just fine and didn't get some of the scarring that sadly some child actors get. Showcasing those martial arts already, eh, Key?
Bonk.
Don't worry about Indy. He'll find his way in. He always does. Way to make Tarzan jealous.
There we go. Time for the minecart sequence.
I am legit surprised that while there are Indiana Jones rides, I don't think any have actually specifically done the minecart.
Especially because
as a
this was very
coaster.
influential on stuff like Donkey Kong Country.
Which, now we do have a Donkey Kong minecart coaster.
And of course,
So, yeah,
actually Minecraft.
Unfortunately, we went down the right. And apparently we were supposed to go down the left because somebody on the right had the practical joke to make it into a flipping roller coaster.
They're probably trying to advertise a upcoming ride or something.
Was Universal Studios a thing already by this point? Well, what am I kidding? It actually kind of is because the Wizard did had a sequence in it, and it was not too long after this.
Oh, wait, hold on. There was apparently... let's see. Okay, I stand corrected. There was a minecart roller coaster made called Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril. The thing is, it was made over in Disneyland Paris.
Oh, so
or
here in
Euro
Europe.
Exclusively?
If I recall correctly, I think that's what Family Guy was referencing when they did that Indiana Jones bit. But yes, this is pretty much the scene of Temple of Doom for most people.
Oh no, it's sand, it's rough, course irritating, and it gets everywhere.
But Luckily, it gets in
It
their
does.
eyes.
But Indy is not played by Tobey Maguire.
I wonder how much fun the actors had filming that minecart sequence.
Well, hopefully without anyone actually getting injured in that.
Yeah, I do wonder how much of that is practical stuff and how much of that is
I haven't
using.
checked. Dweebs, do you know if there was ever any injuries on set with this movie?
I did look it up. I don't remember there being.
Yeah, this scene really has everything. Intense near-death misses, punches, fights, and yes, it pretty much has a lot of things you'll probably remember from other scenes, like people getting stretched between trains or whatnot, being fought over.
They kind of need to justify the idea of a chase sequence with something that actually goes on actual rails. Also,
Mhm.
according to DT Tropes Jova, because you should be knowing this more better, apparently a lot of the sound effects are actually from the train from Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Oh, okay, yep, that
Huh.
actually does make sense. That is pretty cool, honestly. So basically, they use sound effects from a Disney ride, and yet later would have a Disney ride that would basically be this. Interesting how things go full circle, isn't it?
And they did.
Jeez.
Don't worry, guys.
Oh.
You should have chased him on a life draft. You would have been fine.
And this is why we should have taken the left tunnel!
Again, someone at Rare really likes that sequence.
We didn't know that the engineers were feeling wacky today.
There we are.
Honestly-
Offset injury. Harrison Ford herniated a disc in his back filming a fight scene, forcing him to fly back to Los Angeles for an operation. He returned 6 weeks later, and in the meantime, production focused on scenes where stunt double Vic Armstrong could pass for Ford. And then, according to K.U. Kwan, he actually hit Kate Capshaw, giving her a black eye during the filming of a minecart chase scene. Jesus.
Oh, God.
Oops.
Yeah, you mentioned Vic Armstrong earlier. He's a very well-respected stunt
double.
coordinator and stuntman. Pity he directed that Left Behind movie.
I had
He
to ask
directed
which
that?
one.
The Nicolas Cage one.
Oh, the 2014 movie. Jeez.
What? Please tell me that wasn't his first directorial movie.
I think it was his.
Only.
I'm not sure. I'll check.
Keep
real
in mind,
quick,
Jova,
but-
they wanted to make sequels out of that,
Oh.
and they even had failed Kickstarter or Indigo, I think, campaigns. They eventually made those, but they had to be direct-to-video. Oh, Jesus. Direct-to-videos stuff, DVD, and the character of Nicolas Cage was recasted by using, him, Kevin Sorbo.
Jesus Christ. That sounds like it's a whirlwind in and of itself. Well, Indy,
Actually,
you asked
Jova-
for water and you got water.
The first film he directed was a 1993 film called Joshua Tree that starred Dolph Lundgren.
Huh.
Left Behind was his second one that came out 21 years later.
Jesus. Let me was he put off by the first film not doing as well and then thought, I'll give it a try, only for, from what I recall, that second movie to be so much worse.
I don't know.
Water everywhere.
Hey, Indy, how did you dry off so quickly?
It's
Oh,
like
wait,
in
now you're
Jaws-
wet again.
It's like in Jaws the Revenge,
Okay.
where Michael Caine gets to have his shirt wet and dry at the same time.
There you go. Both Indy and Willie are wet. Fan service for every gender now.
Oh. Kid, You generally just don't do that.
You see, even if you survive the fall from that height, there's plenty of company down there waiting for you.
See, even Shrek
And they're
knew
very
that.
hungry.
Even Shrek knew that, so when he did on his bridge, he actually shook it left and right instead of jumping on the boards.
And there you go. Unfortunately, since Willie dropped his gun, sorry, he can't shoot him like in the first movie. Which, I'll admit, that's a nice trade-off.
Although, since this is a prequel, was that meant to be a throw forward to the
Yes.
Yeah, it's more of a...
And that's a throwback to Star Wars, for sure.
It's more of an inside gag for the viewer more than anything, Dweebs. In the context in universe, it just is a thing that happens.
I remember Dwibs' joke in our first Indiana Jones commentary.
How
that
did
supposedly
you get there?
Why weren't you screaming just a bit before? You clearly saw him still right in front of you.
I mean, to be fair, that's like typical in movie magic. You see, she can't see it because we, the audience, can't see it.
That's not how it works.
At all.
You would be surprised how many bouts of media work that way.
Well, then those media are stupid.
Yeah.
Well,
Alright, time to get one of the more iconic lines of the franchise.
Yeah, good luck. There's gators down there.
Also, careful with your phrasing, as always, in these scenes.
Yeah, as the Joker said in The Dark Knight, a very poor choice of words.
You gotta treat every negotiation with a villain like speaking to a fae.
It got to the point, okay, it wasn't a group that I knew, but it was a story that I was told that one time, Shiri, a group of people that were having, I think, second or third edition, it got to the point where the character had the possibility of actually expressing a wish. And unfortunately, that guy was IRL, a lawyer. So he eventually, for the next session, he produced an entire fucking document that was literally foolproof. That the end, of course, wanted to eat him alive.
Like, you are no fun at the table.
Basically.
I just want to think of a creative way to kill you. Why do you have to think legally of a way to get out of it?
That contract can't stop me because I can't read.
Hey, boys, it's dinner time. Death roll and everything. So yeah, we got the iconic line, "Prepare to meet Kali in hell,"
which is very stupid as a line.
And then Carly will tell him, "You got what goddess I am wrong, you idiot."
As we showcased in Azra's Wrath, the closest equivalent to hell will be Naraka, and even then it's more complicated than that.
So again, this is one thing that the Indiana Jones film does differently. It actually culminates in a direct fight with the bad guy.
Yeah. Not even the Last Crusade will not have that either.
Last Crusade has this. Well, okay.
It's a confrontation, yes, but it's not a face fight. Once again, the villain takes out himself.
It depends on if you consider the tank fight to be the true final fight.
I, for some people are taking it.
But that being said, the bad guy is defeated kind of more in a battle of wits there, at least, instead of just, it's lucky that this weapon happens to hate everyone.
Yeah, which in itself has its own problems, but I will have to mention when we get there.
Thank God he dodged that cartoon falling below him.
I'm pretty sure we already had the William scream, sorry.
Oh, crud.
Thankfully, these people have the same aim as the goblins of the Mines of Moria, even though, by all accounts, they shouldn't have that many problems. Whee!
Indy, do you even know what you're doing right now?
Actually taking a leap of faith, technically.
I guess by inciting that, he gets Shiva's wrath, which makes those stones burn incredibly hot.
Idiot. And yeah, in a way, the villain still takes out himself, because, he wants to grab the stone and that is his undoing, but at the very least, he got to do more.
It's funny. He talks about how, the stones will be found, but he seems to be surprisingly very iffy about letting them actually drop.
There you go. There's the British cavalry saving the fucking day. Rejoice.
We helped.
Yeah, we were colonizers, but we helped save the day.
I think some of those guys amongst them are actually Indian, but
Yes,
then again,
conscripts,
probably part of the conscripts.
One of the inciting things about the revolution that will actually, have India gain its independence again was the conscripts actually complaining that the cartridges they were using, they needed to actually chew in order to unwrap them. They did contain pig fat in order to ease up the process, and for religious purpose, that was kind of a no-no, and that snowballed.
Mm-hmm. So they gain their freedom by essentially complaining to customer support.
Kind of. You can make an argument that it might have been more of a inciting excuse, but it did that part of the job.
So yeah, movie's pretty much over now.
Yeah. We thankfully got to have one stone, and thank goodness it's actually the one that was from this village.
Extremely convenient, but maybe it was the will of Shiva.
Apparently there was supposed to be a deleted scene with Indy and Willie helping some afraid children to cross the lava pit through a makeshift bridge. I don't know why it was cut away.
Especially since that explains how they got out from the secret compartment.
TV Tropes seems to theorize that a lot of the scenes that were cut away was because of a runtime.
That would explain why they got rid of... Guess that explains why they got rid of a scene that establishes that things are iffy with the palace. Seriously, I don't know how long that scene was, but if I were in charge of that, I would have thought, guys, this would at least help us not look completely racist. All said at the end of the day, it's a happy ending. The kids are returned, the stone is back, the village can return to prosperity. All's well that ends well.
Yeah, again, there's also the charm that, despite being a prequel, Indy sort of shows a surprising amount of maturity of not wanting to keep the artifact for himself, which was instead a thing that was discussed in the Raiders of the Lost Ark and will also be, especially in Last Crusade.
This is why I mentioned that there was the whole talk of him wanting fame and glory. I guess his idea was to use some of the other stones, if he could have held on to those. But, I guess this is showing that he's above just fame and glory.
There's still obviously the unfortunate case of white saviorism, but at least, like I said, the movie has the heart mostly in the right place. It's just that needed a rework. Oh yeah, they're totally in love. And that's why
How
Willie never showed up after this.
Like, seriously, she really never showed up. I don't think the best she gets is like a little reference in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I haven't read the comics, so I don't remember if she shows up in those. I don't think she shows up in the video games either.
And
there we
here
go.
come
That's
the ever bold credits.
Michael Moore. No, whether it means that Michael Moore, I don't know. But and yeah, that's
Okay.
that's the end. I don't think Paramount has an equivalent of the Avengers for the slow post credit
Okay.
scene.
Star
Okay,
Trek,
so
I don't know. Anyway, no post-credit scene, so Indy will not be invited to the Star Trek initiative. So, final thoughts? Waves.
Yeah, I still don't really enjoy this movie very much. I mean, there are some decent action scenes, especially the kart riding bit. But there are a load of things that drag it down. The stereotypes, the especially the ones that really aren't that accurate at all. The really uneven tone, like we go from wacky scenes with the raft and Willie and all that stuff to people getting burned alive, really graphically.
remember, Dibs, this movie is arguably part of the reason eventually a PG-13 rating was made. It was that
I guess
dark.
that's the thing, though. It took till the early 2000s for us to do the equivalent of 12A.
Huh. What was the movie that finally got Brits thinking that they needed that?
I don't know exactly. Apparently, it was just to bring it more in line with international practices, and that parents were moaning that children couldn't go and see Spider-Man, for example.
What, was that going to be like your equivalent to R before you made your equivalent to PG-13?
No, it was just going to be a 12. 12A is a cinema-only rating. That means anyone under 12 can go, but they must be accompanied by an adult. But yeah, as I mentioned, the negatives of this movie, Willie constantly screaming her head off. I don't know. I mean, it's like Tio said, it's not so much the plot's incomprehensible or anything. It's just all the stuff going on in and around it that drags it down, in my opinion. And yeah, not to mention all those stereotypical accents that the actors on set were either forced to use or were dubbed over, which I think arguably makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't really enjoy this film very much. Although I am looking forward to at least the third film will be more of a palate cleanser.
Alright,
Sure.
Shiroi.
Okay, it wasn't that bad. Like the movie in general, it had some good action. Pacing was pretty decent. Unfortunately, it's pretty damn racist, and that's where the negativity goes. And it's pretty bad. It's pretty blatant, and like it wouldn't have been a lot better, but like them removing that one scene that we talked about when they do see the cult for the first time is just, it did a lot more harm than good. Like, because how long would a scene like that have even been? Like 2 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would have just been like a casual conversation, like something's not right. Like, that would not have stretched the movie too much at all. Like, I don't see any reason why that should have been removed. Again, it wouldn't have cleared the movie of everything because, you know, there was the brown face and other stuff. Like, it would have helped a little bit. I don't think Willie is as bad as, like, people have apparently made her out to be, because, like, aside from a couple of instances, like that one towards the end, on, like, when they're on the bridge, like, most of her complaining has been very justified. That one was just a bit weird. I don't know, and she didn't do nothing. She helped a little bit. Like I don't know. Like she's not an outstanding character or anything, but like definitely not awful. I think that's it. Honestly, this was all right.
All right, I'll go next. Again, this movie is conflicting because of the things that we did mention. Like I said, on one hand, I really appreciate what it's trying to do to be different, exploring something that is unknown to a lot of people, moviegoers, instead of being technically a bit more safe, similar to how the first movie was. Try to be more escape with how gruesome the death sequences are, not potentially being afraid despite having, Indy getting a child sidekick, which for the time and even today is considered kind of like a death sentence for a franchise, But on the other, it's just a big ball of yikes because of all its, trappings that falls into. Um, Again, I believe it could have been just easily been worked out with a reworking on the script. And yeah, adding that scene that Jova mentioned probably would have helped, but I do believe some of the stuff could have been better to just having been reworked, cut out, or just having a bit more quality control. But the story in itself, I argue, is still the necessarily solid base to work out with the rest of the other movies, especially because they bother to actually have it set in during the specific time period. Some of the themes are discussed, and some of the stuff was technically even better than the first movie, like having the entire climax, having Indy being not allured by the stones. There are shades that he might be, but relatively quickly he sets his mind on just wanting to help the village rather than do it for himself, which is very, something to be appreciated. But again, the things that drag down this movie drag it really down, which is the thing that I cannot ignore about it. So objectively, the other movies before and after this are technically better, but this still holds a bit of a place, as my favorite of the saga, for not even the potential, the base of what it tries to do. But I cannot ignore what actually instead drags it down. So, if someone says that Last Crusade is their favorite or the first, I actually get it. I don't even have any rights to complain.
Yeah, no, again, I'm gonna say it. I like this movie. It's not my favorite. That being said, I definitely like this a lot more as a kid than as an adult. And a lot of that does have to do with a lot of the cultural yikes moments in this. I'm gonna say also, I didn't hate Willie back then, and I still don't now. I think she's fine. The problem is when you compare her to other female interests in the series, just fine doesn't exactly cut the mustard as well. Though character-wise, she does have something over the girl in Movie Free, though I can't say because that's spoilers, essentially. The point is, I feel like Willie's fine enough. She gets a little bit of fighting in, but to her credit, she is essentially just a girl dragged on a wild adventure, essentially, tossed around here or there, so no, I don't blame her for being scared, screaming and yelling at times, especially when she's near death, essentially. The action scenes are essential Indiana Jones stuff. A lot of fisticuffs, great music to go with them, and of course it has incredible set pieces like the tricks traps, and most notably the bridge scene, and most famously the minecart sequence, which again, I love honestly. Now, do I feel like sometimes the best of this could be kind of attributed to some highlights? Sadly, yes. Again, not to say that this movie is bad, but okay, there is so many elephants in the room. Now, if I'm to give them the biggest, and I do mean biggest benefit of a doubt, they maybe did some of this stuff by making it really an intentional throwback back to, the shows of what was old back in the day, essentially. That said, even if that was the intent, the problem is it's sadly something that would need to be made more aware to a general audience, and hell, it's even worse nowadays when people probably will not even remember those oldies as much. It's like, and also, I'm not saying that everyone needs to comment on it, but I feel like it could have used a little more something to clue in that something was wrong. Oh, wait, that's right. They did have a scene showcasing that things were wrong, but again, that scene got cut. Like, it is such an obvious get out of jail free card that they just tossed into the garbage. It boggles my mind, essentially. Like, again, I'm not the most familiar with what the moods were like in the 80s, but I'm pretty sure that even by this time, stuff like this was very much being seen more commonly as a no-no. But, again, in spite of all that, I do enjoy it. It is frustrating because I legit believe that, again, at least the head honchos had non-racist ideas at the helm. Granted, knowing that Spielberg and Lucas were in a dark time essentially does also shine light on some of the things with how Willie is portrayed and regarded for a good portion of the movie, which I think is not fair on her part either, essentially. I will say this, though. I wouldn't necessarily want to live in a world where this movie never existed. I would say that if it were possible, this would be the Indiana Jones film that just needs a remake the most. Who knows? Maybe they could do like an animated remake or something, because sadly the cast is too old, or who knows, if we eventually get a rebooted Indiana Jones, maybe they'll do a version of Temple of Doom that's not super yikes or whatnot. I do still feel the movie is iconic, and it has a place in film history, but part of that film history will have to be about correcting the mistakes of the past, because a few were made here. That being said, it is still a movie that I recommend you give a watch, since, well, first of all, it's part of the Indiana Jones classics and whatnot, and I feel that there's enough iconic stuff here that you can have a good time with this movie. Just know that there are a lot, and I do mean a lot of asterisks, to keep in mind. Well, that being said, that brings our commentary of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom to a close. And as it turns out, I will be the one taking us to our next destination. Friends and family, we are going to a wedding.
How boring.
How very Halloween, I guess.
So are
I
we
hear it's a
watching The
wedding to
Corpse
be-
Bride?
Well, similar to the Corpse Bride, it may involve one of the wedded folk having to run from their, soon-to-be wed, essentially, since I understand it's a wedding followed up by a game of hide-and-seek. Tune in next time for when we commentate on Ready or Not.
See ya.
See ya.
Ta-ta.